Welcome back. This is our second Lunch and Learn of 2017. The TV is not yet on. This is Diana Kinikin. Diana is actually a Northwest High School graduate, and she has a lot to tell you guys about life, liberty, and the pursuit of lab investigations and investigating labs. And I think I need to plug this in. Let me plug this in real quick. But she can start introducing herself while I set this up.
Is mine working? It is. It's very quiet. I don't think it's working. You can? All right. My name's Diana Kinikin. I'm a laboratory inspector for the Cement and Concrete Reference Laboratory. Avi kind of has me, Mr. Silber, excuse me, kind of has me jumping the gun on introducing myself. I intended for this talk to be entertaining because it talks about all the ways that I'm a failure, which I think is funny, and I encourage you to laugh. If you are all terribly silent, this will be very awkward for me. Can you actually see the first slide now? Is it thinking? Well, while it's loading, I'm going to talk about my first slide, which is just my cover. Presenter mode? No. Fix it. Okay. You'll have to forgive me for sitting down. I fell off a mountain recently and sprained both of my ankles at the same time, so I'm still doing okay. I'm not on crutches or a cane anymore, which is really great. Always take the safe path down the mountain. I chose not to. It didn't go so great. No, now it says no signal. Still no signal. Wait, they're perfect. Now it's showing in the mode that I want them to see. Yes, good. Okay. So I know it's a little weird when an adult with a mortgage and a Netflix account comes to tell you why failure is a good thing. But in high school, you hear a lot about failure. You don't want to fail a test. You don't want to fail at life. You don't want to be that person at McDonald's serving people French fries. However, in the interest of the current trend of reclaiming bad words, I want to reclaim that word failure as well as ruin all of your hopes and dreams. You're supposed to laugh. Oh, thank you. You're very helpful. So yeah, who am I? I'm you, about 10 years in the future. I graduated from Northwest in 2009. I'm currently a laboratory inspector for the Cement and Concrete Reference Laboratory. Hooray, this is what the future looks like. I took classes in this room. Starting with failure, but who am I to talk about failure? This is a list of things I have failed to do in my life. I have fully committed at least a lot to everything that's on this list with a detailed plan of how I was going to make a career out of it. And yes, if you're reading the list because you're bored like me, I was a wildland firefighter in North Carolina. Yes, I dabbled in blacksmithing and archery. And the highlight is I failed at everything on this list, utterly and sometimes in a blaze of glory. Oh, you're very helpful. Starting out here at Northwest, I was going to be an artist when I grew up, and I was pretty good at it. I was tapped for the Art Academy by Mr. Youngblood, and my darn parents just refused to sign the stupid consent form, so that got dumped. Later, at the same time my dreams of being an artist were being crushed, I was doing a lot of theater here at Northwest, although the picture on the right is from the resurgence of this dream in college. I was going to go to school in New York and be an actor, and my parents, wise people who had caught on to my dreams at this point, bought me a few books on what it was like to be an actor. And me, not fond of living with cockroaches, let this dream die as well, and I was not as good an actor as I was an artist. So now I come to your phase in life. I was going to be a scientist. I had, and I still have, a real knack for science like nothing else. I can pull the oddest facts from my head with very little effort. And this one stuck with me through the end of high school and into college. Science. I went to college knowing that I was going to be a scientist. It was the only thing that I wanted to do. I went to Belize to study dolphins. That's me on the right. I got an internship at the prestigious Smithsonian Environmental Research Center in Edgewater, Maryland. I did everything right to set myself launch towards a perfect science career. And there was just one problem. I hated it. I was miserable. The good parts were the pure research and the collection of specimens and the tools and the facilities, but I was absolutely miserable. I struggled with my peers, or rather how I was not a peer. I was an intern. If you have ever read Dilbert, I was someone whose teeth could be used as a staple remover. Haha, Dilbert's funny. But that's exactly what I was. I was assigned to tasks for which I was made responsible but were outside my department of authority because they needed a body, just a human being to do things. I had the distinct misfortune, and still have that, of being detail-oriented and a fast worker. This meant I was dumped in front of a microscope for 8 hours for a week. 8 hours a day for a week. And I had an altercation with a postdoc member there, and it did not go well for me. This is currently known as paying your dues, and I soon learned I wasn't alone in the science industry. This is all very common. I had the fortune of being a paid intern. I made roughly $2,000 that summer, but that didn't stop the job from giving me my first real bout of panic attacks and ulcers. So, what do you do now? What you want to do is awful, and it makes you upset. You have your two choices. You can quit, you can fail, or you can keep trying. I think we avoid failure because it's scary. We commit ourselves completely to a hobby or a sport or a job or a lifestyle because choosing it in the first place was hard, so why would you change again? Failure is scary, so we force ourselves to continue doing things that we hate or that are not healthy for our physical or mental health. Does this sound familiar? If I quit this job/sport/internship, everyone will think I'm a failure. Yup. And you have no control over what other people think. Because we care so much what other people think, we avoid quitting or failure. So we soldier on with the things that suck out our souls through our nose. In this case, I realized I could not go back. It was too late to change my degree process, to change my major, so I finished with a Bachelor of Arts in Environmental Studies, though I managed to add a minor in History and Political Science, and the combination confuses people to this day. Follow 4 very, very long years. I spent the better part of 4 years just surviving after college. I spent less than a year as a vet tech, less than a year as a research assistant, and worked almost the entire time in the background as a farmhand, just trying to make ends meet. During this time, I still lived with my parents, and even though I had work in my field, I still felt like a failure. I was falling behind where I thought I was supposed to be in life. 2 of these 3 jobs attempted to suck the life out of me by force. I developed more anxiety, stomach ulcers, and gained almost 50 pounds. Many of these effects stay with me to this day. I can't be called into my current director's office without falling into a sweat and worrying that I'm going to lose my job. Great fun talk, everybody, right? I hate all of you. So what do? So before we get back to how I made it work, what should you do? This is kind of a depressing talk for what should be funny. And the question you've probably been told to ask yourself is, if money was no object, I would do blank. And then your teacher advisor will ask, well, why aren't you doing that? At which point you feel a little upset with the world. Gee, thanks, Mrs. Smith. I never thought of that. So you continue on your way to being a biologist because that's what you think, because that's what you're good at, even though it gives you stomach ulcers. The question should be phrased like this. I'm really good at this one thing, and I like doing it, and I do it to relax. But no one pays people to do that, or it's not a great job, or / no one likes plumbers. But I'm going to tell you a secret. Are you ready? I'm sure Mr. Silver is going to hate me after this. The greatest disservice that an adult has ever done for you is to let you think there is a standard for how you must live your life. Thank you. Think about all the things you have been told you must do. You must have a summer job at all times. Check. That's me on the right. You must graduate from high school. Check. Graduated with several chords to say I did a really great job. You must go to college. Check. You must get a good internship to get a good job. Check. Stomach ulcers and anxiety disorder? Check. You must get married. Check. You must buy a house. Check. And a large check to the bank. These are all things that all of you know you must do in order to be happy. Well, to make money, to buy a house, to get married, to be happy. That is a lot of steps to be happy. I did all of these things, and in the correct order, and in the correct time, and it didn't make me happy. It didn't even make me financially stable. My degree in science did me diddly squat to get me a job. It's a very expensive piece of paper hanging in my office. It's the second most expensive thing I own after my house. After I graduated from college, I was basically the same 16-year-old farmhand who didn't know how to do her own taxes. Yeah, getting married didn't make me happy. The guy does, but the actual act just put me in debt. So learn from history. Don't do anything because you are supposed to, because an adult like me tells you you should. You don't have to buy a house. You don't have to go to college. You don't have to do anything. I know, that sounds really great, right? But why not get a degree in science, right? STEM fields are in a big demand right now, right? And here's another secret. The thing you think you want to do now is rarely what you end up doing as an adult. And nothing in life is a guarantee. So says the Census Bureau. Here's the part where I sound like your parents. 74% of people with a STEM degree do not work in a STEM field. And that was true for me for 4 years. But the degree itself has a lot of value, right? You've all been shown the table about how much more money you'll earn over your lifetime as a college graduate. It's not true anymore. That table alone is not the full picture because of student loan debt and the cultural shift away from blue-collar work as respectable work. Let's talk starting salaries. A welder with no college degree can expect to earn anywhere from $27,000 to $65,000 starting, and you'll do better or worse depending on where you choose to train and work. It costs $5,000 to $15,000 to train. That's not bad. My job, in comparison, requires a science-based bachelor's degree, and we start with no experience at $49,000, and with the annual bonus in December, it tips over $50,000. Wow, right? That's awesome. Yeah, my degree cost $105,000, and I graduated in 3.5 years instead of 4. And I worked my butt off for scholarships and work study for offsets. In today's dollars, that degree would cost $180,000. That does not include room or board or books. So it would be about $200,000 for my degree, which does absolutely nothing on its own. I don't remember being told any of this in high school. There was an intense lean towards college. While waiting at sign-in, I saw, get your college applications in and be a priority and mail it in with our super stamps. Granted, I was being prepared for college before the housing bubble burst in 2008-2009 and the recession dropped us through the floor. My generation moved forward with a promise that college equaled a job, and I'm here to ruin that dream for all of you. So what do you do? Oh God, what do you do? You can do whatever you want to do, but be prepared for the consequences. There's a really great commencement speech by Jim Carrey, the comedian, and I encourage you all to go watch it later. My understanding was his father wanted to be a musician and chose instead to be an accountant to support his family. And eventually he got laid off. It happens. You can try everything you can with reasonable risk and find out who you are and who you want to be. And you might end up like me. My life sounds like a really poorly written fiction character. I've done everything except retail and food service, and that's just because they wouldn't hire me. These pictures, I have done archery, I've been a firefighter, I've done fire spinning until I decided I didn't like the smell of scorched hair. So back to my story. Here I am, 4 years out of college, struggling, can't keep a job for a whole year, anxiety, panic attacks, no future, I have applied to hundreds of jobs, been rejected by Starbucks, and I think, that's it, I'm done. I'll be a failure forever. A couple of months before, I had sent my resume to this little ad I'd seen on a job site, and it was pretty basic, and just read, competitive pay, lots of travel. And originally I had skipped it, but something made me go back. I was qualified, I had a science degree, why not, right? I got an email asking for a phone interview. Yay! And then on that phone call, I got asked a question I didn't hear a lot because people didn't bother to read my resume. It was, you were a firefighter? Yeah, in North Carolina, I fought wildfires. I did it to relax. I'm a firefighter too in my spare time. No, not haha, that's not funny. That's ooh. So because I had tried something in my spare time, I had an in-person interview that went really well. I was able to charm them. Come on, load. There we go. If I hadn't failed on any of my other previous career paths and all the ones before that, and spent a year failing to successfully pay bills and eat at the same time, I would not have my current job. Which is a pretty cool job. In very short summary, and I'll go into it a bit more, my job pays me a lot to travel a lot and tell people that they're wrong, which is fun. My desire to try everything just for fun gave me the in with the interviewer, and my not being in those other jobs made me look for something in anything. And many of those jobs that try to suck my soul out through my nose gave me the skills I needed to get started in my job, which I've now developed into a great career. Fun story, that center picture, I am not supposed to be on that bridge. I'm breaking the rules. So where can failure take you? Somewhere pretty cool. The Cement and Concrete Reference Laboratory was established in April of 1929 as the Cement Reference Laboratory. And it was a joint effort between the ASTM CO1 Committee on Cement, the Portland Cement Association, and the National Bureau of Standards, now known as the National Institute of Standards and Technology, NIST. In the 1950s, we expanded into concrete. In 1960, the name was changed to Cement and Concrete Reference Laboratory. I stole this from my boss's PowerPoint on what we do. 208 laboratories participated in our first tour. By 1959, we had 520 labs, and we'd expanded into the U.S., 6 provinces of Canada, and Puerto Rico. So these are all places that we travel to perform an inspection. We do 2,400 inspections in 1,400 locations. We cover 140 standards to ensure that buildings don't fall down. Anytime that you're building a large building, they will sample concrete and rebar to send away to a testing facility and make sure they were made correctly. And I go to those places and make sure they're testing that correctly. So I get to tell people that they're wrong a lot. For 2017, we expect to visit 800 labs and earn $3.5 million in inspection fees. And yes, those little red dots mean I get to travel to Alaska, Hawaii, Mexico, and Puerto Rico on somebody else's dime. So try things. Adventure is out there. It's scary to fail. It's not fun, and it'll give you stomach ulcers and anxiety. But sometimes the fear won't go away, and you just have to do it afraid. That picture of me with the flag is approximately 45 minutes before I fell and sprained both ankles on that mountain. So, calculated risk. It's not too late. You are still young. You have a huge safety net underneath you in high school and in college to do anything and everything that's free. Try, fail, and try again. Because we're all just faking it anyway. That's it. Thank you for your attention. Does anyone have any questions? I'd love to answer questions about anything and everything, including the number of tattoos that I have, and still manage to work and make lots of money.
How many tattoos do you have?
I have 6 tattoos. My job doesn't care if we have visible tattoos as long as none of them are penises.
Oh, that's
There's a change, I think, coming in the stigma of tattoos in the working world. Most of the inspectors that I know either have large forearm tattoos because the laboratories we go to, the guys who are testing concrete, are just covered in them, and nobody cares anymore. That I think is going to be an advantage for you, and part of being who you want to be and sort of forget what everybody else thinks about you. I love having tattoos. I think it's great. Everyone should have one when you turn 18. Go for it. That's fine.
Like, did you ever, like, genuinely regret one of your tattoos? And, like, do they mean something to you, or did you just get them because they were cool?
They all mean something to me. The ones that I would say I wish I had done differently, I have 2 on my legs that I did as part of a fundraiser flash sale, and the guy was attempting to tattoo my thigh bones rather than just into my flesh. He was really digging in there. I thought I was going to die. I wish I had actually paid real money for those because the lines have all blown out and they don't look that great. But I'm going to have them redone by the guy who just did the one on my inner arm, which I really like, and then it's going to be all better. Makes a fun story one way or the other. I was bleeding everywhere for days. It was great.
Like, after failing so many things, like, what was the drive that, like, pushed you to keep going?
Bills, mostly. I attended a talk by Colonel Chris Hadfield in Virginia for his book, I don't remember what it is. It's about being an astronaut. He did the ground control to Major Tom with the guitar and the ISS, if y'all remember that video from like 6 years ago. And at that time, I was still at the job that like murdered me. And I asked him, like, what do you do? What do you do if you feel like an absolute failure? And I held up an entire line of people behind me, by the way, while I asked this question, and I felt no shame. And his suggestion was set a goal and just every day try and do one tiny thing to get towards that goal, and then celebrate. Have chocolate, have something. Celebrate that you have done a thing. If all of that you did to get to that goal today was you got up and you took a shower, awesome. It's hard when you have failed at anything and everything that you ever wanted to do, and now you are left with an empty bowl of dreams. And sometimes all I did was I got up and I took a shower, and that was what I did that day. I probably applied to several hundred jobs. I stopped counting. Places don't get back to you. It's hard. I think just trying to get through the day that you're in and just getting from sunrise to sunset is sometimes all that you need to make sure you do for yourself.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
How good of a student were you in high school?
I was a fantastic student and I had no life. I took several AP classes. I did theater combined with this, and this was when theater we would practice until 11 o'clock at night before they set time limits on when you could be there. So for Les Mis, we were there until 11:30 at night, and then I'd get up at 5 and go to class in the morning. But I was a fantastic student. I think I had like a 3.8 when I was done. Same in college. I didn't do so great in chemistry because that stuff's weird, but I graduated well over a 3.5 in both high school and college, and I wish I had relaxed a little bit more. I didn't start willingly not going to classes when I had the option to in college until probably my last semester, and I wish I had slept in once or twice. Just been okay with a 3.5 instead of a 3.8. It's really not much of a difference. Nobody cares. It's true. It's really true. Did you graduate from high school? Check. That's it. But you should all still try.
What was like your most interesting like place that you worked?
The most interesting place that I've worked, like
Like-
total,
Like weird or like
and the most interesting thing I've done. That's really hard to summarize given the list of things that I've done. I would say wildland firefighting is probably my favorite because I found it relaxing, which sounds really odd. I know how dumb that sounds, but if you think about if you've ever done something that requires your complete focus, like if you're working with a Bunsen burner and if you look away for 5 seconds, you're going to blow up the whole classroom. Firefighting's like that. You absolutely cannot focus on anything else other than the fire that is attempting to eat your shoes. And it's very relaxing, and it's physically draining, and you go back to your dorm room, because I was in college at the time, and you fall asleep smelling like a campfire, and it's awesome. It's also extremely dangerous, and it kills people every year. Something to be aware of. Risk. Calculated risk. I have been very interesting places. I'll just keep talking while you bring the mic over. Somebody else had a question, I think. I've been really interesting places for the current job, and my weekends are always my own. I recently came back from Colorado, and I was hiking on something called the Manitou Incline. You hike higher than the Empire State Building is tall in under a mile, and it's intense and awful, and I hated it, but I did it anyway because it was there. And then when I came down, I did not take the safe trail down. I took the fast trail down, and I fell and sprained both ankles. So take the safe trail. Yes.
So when you visit different places around the country, like the labs, how long do you usually stay there?
We will travel for 5 weeks at a time, 4 times a year. I'm on the road approximately 25 weeks out of the year. When I'm back in the office for 7 weeks, I'll also do a special, which means I'll fly to a city for one lab only. I'll typically do 10 labs on a trip, being there for about 2 days each. Recently, when I got back from Colorado, I just flew to Louisiana for 2 days to do a special there. It's sort of a combination of people being either really happy that you're there or they're really angry that you're there.
Do you think that the amount that you travel has had a negative impact on your personal life, like with settling down and having a family and all that?
Yes and no. Yes, in that I have to tell a lot of people, I'm sorry, I can't be there, I'm in Louisiana, and no, in that I'm more valuable
Guys,
with my
wait
time.
1 second.
I'm more careful with when I choose to do things, and I spend more time with my husband doing things versus sitting at home watching Netflix. Thank you all very
Okay.
much.